All right, so we are about to start game one of the possible 5-game set between Eric Hawkins and Michael Majors. For Hawkins, it was his affinity deck that carried him into this top 8. 7-1 with it, got most of his wins, was able to draw his last 3 rounds as he was just in first place for the entire tournament. On Michael Majors' side, this was a list that he and Jerry Thompson were both playing this weekend. His standard deck, Teamer Emerge, was excellent. Obzon was so-so for him this weekend.
Yeah, and for Hawkins, his standard record actually undefeated, 5-0-3 record on his side. If you look at the course of this tournament, Eric's round 1 pairing was against Jerry Thompson on this exact deck, and he pulled off a W there. So this matchup is winnable. Having 3 sideboard games is going to hurt Eric here, but he has a shot.
Yeah, so you're saying he really does need to 2-0 these first 2 games. Game 1 is going to be a good fight for Eric. He's on the play. Majors is on a 5-card hand on the draw. You'd think that Hawkins is a large favorite on this one.
Certainly, and when Affinity keeps their 7-card hand, that's scary. The deck is not the best at mulliganing, but it is able to mulligan, and it looks to mulligan a lot of hands that don't have one of these haymakers. And if you look at Eric's list, he has 4 copies of Thoughtcast, so he actually has a lot more stuff that's able to go a little bit longer, generate some value, find those haymakers where you might see Galvanic Blast in that role typically.
Yeah.
And Thoughtcast really helps in this Jund Abzan kind of field.
How's exactly? Was just noticing that. You know, you talked about how it sometimes can mulligan. Mulliganing against Obzon it's just one of the worst feelings out of just about any deck. But you're right, the burn isn't going to help him, but these extra cards, that's going to be great.
Yeah, we played some playtest games earlier in the weekend, and there was games where Eric just goes Thoughtcast, and I was just behind it as the Lingering Souls deck.
All right, well, so for Eric Hawkins, Vault Scourge, Mox Opal, Inkmoth Nexus is the start. We go over to Majors, just a shambling vent.
What Majors really wants to be opening up on is a turn 1 discard spell, so he's already behind on that. Of course, mulligan to 5, you can't have everything.
Glimmer Void for Hawkins. He's got a Cranial Plating. It's his 3rd artifact, so Opal is online. He will equip. This is 4 damage with Lifelink. Majors down to 16.
And he's already put 5 permanents on the table and still has gas left in the tank. This is a really scary position for Majors.
We're hoping Majors can put together a response. You see some lands in his hand, both basic Swamp. He's got, looks like to be a forest, a marsh flats. Liliana of the Veil may be his only interactive spell.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on him right now to have exactly Abrupt Decay, and it doesn't look like he has it.
No, he actually does have a copy, though, of Collective Brutality. This is a card we saw some of in Standard. Michael Majors playing it, though, in Modern. What I'm impressed is that this card we've seen out of the Dredge decks this weekend in Modern. But Michael Majors, he's just a fair deck playing the same spell.
Yeah, it's a really great haymaker against burn specifically. We're going to see it kicked here, and I imagine that he's discarding specifically because he knows Eric has 4 Thoughtcast, and Thoughtcast would be one of the better cards for Eric to have in hand here.
Big play from Michael Majors. So he's going to look at his hand and take a card, kills the Vault Scourge. Now, unfortunately, and this is a risk Majors took, he's not going to get the 2nd card. You can't take an equipment with it. So the last 3 cards, Arcbound Ravager, Cranial Plating, Etched Champion, they're all going to stay.
A good amount of bad news considering that Etched Champion is one of Eric's better cards. Notably, the Collected Defiance actually took Eric off of Metalcraft, so he couldn't cast the Champion this turn because the Mox Opal was not yet on.
Majors wishes he did. Majors has the Liliana of the Veil at the ready. If Hawkins had tapped out for it, it'd be one of his few chances to get that guy off the board.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Arcbound Ravager, the play from Eric Hawkins. Now he is back to being metal crafted, so that Opal is online. Just passes the turn. Now there was no equip there.
Yeah, so he still has mana up to activate the Inkmoth Nexus. Perhaps he's hedging against that potential Liliana of the Veil.
It is in Majors' hand. We go back over to Michael. He's got a Liliana of the Veil. It may just be lands alongside it. So a fetch of Marsh Flats. He's got to decide if he wants to set up green mana. No green spells in his hand just yet. but he will. It's Temple Garden.
And for Hawkins, with only the 3 mana sources, I'm curious to see if in the face of Liliana Edict, he just sacrifices the Ravager and moves the counter onto the Ink Moth, or sacrifices the Ink Moth itself. Notably, he's still off of Metalcraft if the Ravager itself dies, though I think that the Ink Moth Nexus is generally going to be worth more from this position.
Majors makes the play, Liliana -1. Now Hawkins will make that decision. Does he want the land or the creature?
Yeah, so step 1, animate the Ink Moth Nexus. It's going to need to be a creature for what he wants to do no matter what. Either to modular the counter over or sacrifice the land. And this is kind of a tough decision. I think that making the Ink Moth a little bit larger, keeping that mana source and the creature land is the play here.
And it looks like that draw from Hawkins. So his hand right now is a second Mox Opal, a second Cranial Plating, and an Etched Champion. Hawkins will activate the Ink Moth Nexus, and he decides to keep his Arcbound Ravager.
This would pay off in a big way if he started peeling lands off of the top. So I think that that's kind of the hedge that he's going for here.
Yeah, now he gets a one-shot chance at 3 mana, right?
Right, now he has Metalcraft going with the Ravager here. Conveniently, the Ravager is a 1/1 against the 1 Loyalty Liliana on this turn as well. And if he has a second Mox Opal in hand, he can sacrifice this Opal here, play the second one, get up to 3 mana for this turn.
Mox Opal will make a mana. It's going to be sacrificed to the Ravager. It becomes a 2/2. Second Mox Opal. And now here we have the Etched Champion. Arcbound Ravager will attack down the Liliana. So Michael's only got lands. He's going to have to peel a way to kill this Etched Champion. He currently has protection from all colors. And it's going to be hard.
With the texture of that game, if Hawkins had something like a Springleaf Drum in hand, you might see him elect to just leave the Liliana on the table because the +1 has the potential to hurt Majors more than it does to hurt Hawkins. Though he still has pretty good cards. I know he has Cranial Plating still in hand. He doesn't really want to be discarding here.
All right, and here's a great draw for Majors. He's going to have Lingering Souls. 2 1/1s in play. He's got it in the graveyard and more coming up.
Lingering Souls is normally superb in this matchup, though the Etched Champion and Cranial Plating are already on the table. So Majors is still in a lot of trouble here, and he's on 13 to Hawkins' 22.
Yeah, that 1-2 punch of Plating plus Champion is really just one of Hawkins' best weapons in the matchup. Majors did have one of his few ways to answer it, the Liliana of the Veil, but the way Hawkins played that turn, the opportunity was never there.
Right, the Liliana answering Etched Champion, it really only works as support to a hand that's chock full of removal spells otherwise, or against threat light draws from Hawkins.
So land from Hawkins, an equip of Cranial Plating, a swing of Etched Champion. He plays another Arcbound Ravager, and he has Majors down to 5.
Majors picked up a Siege Rhino, and that's going to be not nearly enough in the face of Etched Champion double Cranial Plating, the last card in Hawkins' hand.
This is a great draw for Majors, especially on a mull to 5. Collective Brutality, Liliana, Souls, Siege Rhino. These are the cards he wants. He'd really love to have 2 more of them, though. He's running out of ways to interact.
Yep, and in these pre-sideboarded games, even with some extra cards, let's imagine that he had a Tarmogoyf and a Grimflayer. This game doesn't really look different. Those cards wouldn't be adding anything to Major's table. Now, if the extra card's in Abrupt Decay, now we're kind of talking.
An attack of 1 puts Hawkins to 21. Souls will be flashed back. 2 more 1/1s from Michael Majors, but they're white creatures. They can't block the Etched Champion. Majors looks like he is just dead if that champion turns sideways. And Hawkins, here's a Cranial Plating. He'll just make the champion very big. And game 1 goes to Eric Hawkins and Affinity.
All right, we are halfway through step 1. Won our first pre-sideboarded game.
So that one was some easy mode though, right? Eric was on the play, Majors was on 5 cards.
Yep.
If Majors is going to get a pre-sideboarded game, this next one is where it's at.
A lot of pressure on Majors here. And I'm kind of curious, I would like to have seen the 7 and the 6 at Majors mulligan. You know, you have to mulligan non-functional mixes of lands and spells, but he also has to be picky about the spells that he keeps. He's looking for Path to Exile, Abrupt Decay, 1-mana discard spells, which on the draw are even not always going to be great. So there's a lot of hands that are good in a number of matches that Majors is still going to have to mulligan in these pre-sideboarded games.
For Michael Majors, the Georgia native, this is his first invitational top 8. He has had such an impressive. He has an impressive resume on the SCG tour. Now this last year, and this I think may be his most impressive thing to date, he started on the Magic Pro Tour scene with no pro level at all, went from nothing to platinum all in 1 year. This is a player on the rise, to say the least. It started just about a year ago with his Grand Prix win with Blue-Red tutelage.
Extremely consistent, extremely sharp. Won that Grand Prix with a nigh unplayable deck.
Yeah, it was one of those things where people picked it up the next week and everyone said, I don't get it. And then
I played the deck on Magic Online, and it took about 3 days for everybody to just be beating me handily.
Players are going to get ready for Game 2. Now remember, because this is a best-of-5 series, they are not allowed to sideboard just yet. As they get ready, though, for Game 2, we're going to talk about Star City Games Regionals. This is coming up on October 15th all around the country. So you see this playmat here. This is the Wings of Glass exclusive playmat, and it's going to be given away at our regional championships in Season 3, along with tokens. Now, these are available. You see the Robin Alfard token, also with the same art. These are given away to the first 200 players to register at each location. So you're going to want to go ahead and make sure to register for that. These will be a standard format, and we can now actually announce where the locations are. So 15 different regionals all around the country. You see them there on the map, and you see the names of all the places. Find out more and be sure to register at starcitygames.com/regionals. Major's back on the play for the first time here, and he's keeping on 7. As we said before, Etched Champion, that gets in the way of Michael Majors' attrition game plan.
Yeah, so in the post-sideboarded games, Majors has the big trump. 2 copies of Stony Silence. Pre-sideboard, and even continuing in those sideboard games, Etched Champion, extremely important and extremely powerful for Hawkins.
Well, he's going to start the game on a Lava Axe. He's going to fetch for a Shock and cast Thoughtseize. He's at 15, but now he sees what he's up against. And this hand looks to be beatable. For Eric Hawkins, it's 2 lands, 2 Springleaf Drums, Arcbound Ravager, Vault Scourge, and Mox Opal. This is great for Majors.
Yeah, he's taking the only really problematic card. Hawkins is left with a Creature Land and a Vault Scourge after this Ravager bites it. For this keep for Eric, the way you kind of justify this hand, what Majors is crutching on, he knows the matchup is these 1-mana discard spells. That's about the most important card for Majors. And if you're mulliganing with a hand like this, you're trying to mulligan into 2 Haymakers. That's pretty unrealistic. So that's why the keep is justifiable, though he's getting punished pretty heavily here.
Yeah, Arcbound Ravager gone, so it's just mana and a Vault Scourge for Hawkins. He'll need to draw something. Blinkmoth Nexus for Eric Hawkins. Vault Scourge, he goes to 18. Mox Opal and a pass. And now Majors is going to look to capitalize.
Looks like Majors has 3 of a kind Path to Exile. Hawkins has already naturally drawn his basic island.
Yeah, this is great for Majors. 3 Path to Exiles and a Lingering Souls. He doesn't need more than 1 threat to win this game.
No, Hawkins is going to have to peel exceptionally well from this point to be able to win this one.
Springleaf Drum from Eric Hawkins.
Looks like he picked up a Thought Cast. He was able to chain together some Thought Casts, get some cards, get an Etched Champion with a little bit of backup on the table. He could win this game that way.
Another drum. Here's a Thought Cast. It is just about Etched Champion now, isn't it? If he gets that down.
Exactly. It's all about Champion or being able to plow through all of the Path to Exile. So he'll need to just draw a bunch of threats to go with, say, a Cranial Plating or specifically Etched Champion.
A hit will put Majors down, looks like to 13 here. 1 off the Vault Scourge, 1 off the fetch land. Yeah, I mean, how many... I guess he could get enough Thought Casts to make it through all this removal, but that would be a tall order.
Yeah, it's not going to be nearly as easy as Game 1 was.
A lot of air in Hawkins' deck. He's got 4 Memnites and 4 Ornithopters in the main.
Majors is down to 13, though. It is significant that the discard spell was Thoughtseize instead of Inquisition of Kozilek.
Sure. Majors drawing another Thoughtseize to that point. It looks like his hand, he's got a land, a Thoughtseize, 3 copies of Path to Exile.
Now, I believe that Hawkins has picked up a Cranial Plating, so this Thoughtseize is huge.
This is big. Thoughtseize, Cranial Plating gone, 2 lands left. It was the downside of that thought cast right there, was that whatever Hawkins drew, there was going to be a window of a turn where Majors could take the card.
Yep, and you can't just not cast it because then they take your thought cast.
So Hawkins is going to play off the top, but he might be able to do it. Here's an Arcbound Ravager. He'll play that. Majors, though, deftly has left up a white mana here on the Temple Garden. He will have one Path to Exile ready this turn, and a full attack from Hawkins is 2. Majors will drop down to 9.
Majors being very conservative with these Path to Exiles. Of course, the current target's not very powerful. The one reason to be able to do that, he knows there's no Galvanic Blast.
Yeah, I love this from Majors, though. Takes the damage. Now on end step, he's going to path that Arcbound Ravager.
Another thing about it, if he takes the damage here, he's really feigning that he only has the one removal spell. He's not trying to be too aggressive with them. You know, he knows that Hawkins already can't find a land with the path, so Hawkins might go all in the Ravager just off of the information that Majors just took that damage.
So Hawkins feeds the Ravager both drums, then sacrifices it to move its counters onto the creature land. So next time it's activated, Blinkmoth Nexus is going to be hitting hard.
Oh yeah.
Shambling Vent for Majors. It's got a grip of Souls, Path to Exile, it looks like.
Those are really good holdings.
Yeah.
Eric's going to have to start drawing his Thoughtcast and Etch Champion to be able to draw out of this one.
Can Michael Majors go for Lingering Souls here? He'd be tapping out.
He's able to block the hit from the Inkmoth Nexus on this turn, and he's going to have to draw some more action to actually close the game to win it anyway. With most of Eric's top decks are actually threats. He's running on 8 creature lands, a bunch of creatures on top of that. So Majors isn't going to, it's not reliable to crutch on winning the game with the 1 Lingering Souls.
All right, Lingering Souls is the play for Majors. We go back to Hawkins. He activates the Blinkmoth Nexus as a 4/4, and Majors goes straight for the life pad. He's down to 5.
Yeah, and again, the absence of a Galvanic Blast. He's able to take some of these hits.
Ooh, nice draw here for Michael Majors. Liliana of the Veil. It lines up great with his hand. He can cast that and a Path to Exile in the same turn.
Be able to clean up this Vault Scourge here as well.
I suppose he also has Flashback on Souls, double path available.
Right. A lot of great options here. This draw has really come together for Majors.
And he's going to go for the second. Here's a Flashback of Lingering Souls. Now creatures number 3 and 4 for Michael Majors.
And given that these 1/1s trade with most of what Eric has going on, going for the Liliana is a little aggressive. He would like to be able to cast these Path to Exiles before he's ever put into a position where he would want to plus the Liliana.
You see Michael just is going to go sit back on this card advantage. He flashes back the Souls and just no attacks, says go. Hawkins will play out the rest of his hand now. It's another Arcbound Ravager. Blinkmoth activates. Major's going to hold on the activation. Now the 4/4 attacks. Arcbound Ravager, good against removal, though.
Generally, yeah. The fact that Majors has so many removal spells is problematic. And I like this block from Majors here. He's kind of goading Hawkins into sacrificing the Arcbound Ravager, though Hawkins has a backup Blinkmoth Nexus. He's just going to pump it there.
Sure. And now Path to Exile for Majors will go ahead and hit the creature land. And Hawkins will feed it to the Ravager. See if Majors responds.
And a path from Majors here, followed by the Liliana, would make sure that he got rid of the Arcbound Ravager and no modular counters were transferred to the other Blinkmoth Nexus.
Yeah. Major sees it, and he's very cleverly here. He's going to wait until his own turn. Because of the amount of lands he has available, he can just do that main phase. Hawkins is tapped out.
Right, and his draw might change exactly what he wants to do.
Majors' hand, Liliana, Path to Exile, land number 5. And now here comes the removal. It's going to be starting on that third Path to Exile. This is dangerous from Hawkins' point of view.
Right.
Path on Ravager. Eric can sack the Mox Opal in response. he wants.
And the math involved with that is if he starts sacrificing these artifacts, it makes a potential thought cast off the top worse because he reduces his affinity for artifacts. He'll be less likely to be able to cast multiple spells. Also, if he were to run out of artifacts, he has that Glimmer Void that he's pulled back here.
Yeah. So Eric could sacrifice, if he sacrifices both the Opal and the Citadel to the Ravager, moves all the counters to the Scourge, then if Michael has a kill spell, which he does, then Eric loses everything.
And it's completely unrealistic that Majors is opening up on this path without a backup kill spell here.
Hawkins will sacrifice the Opal. Maybe he's splitting the difference. And that's it. He'll move the counters to the Vault Scourge. Now, an update from our backup feature match. Right now, Liam Lonergan has Tom Ross on the ropes. With both pre-sideboarded games, the Elves player, Liam Lonergan, the unknown, takes them both. Tom Ross is going to have to win all 3 post-board games if he's going to stay in this invitational.
He gets better post-sideboard. I don't know if he gets that much better.
All right, and Majors, back to this match, though. Majors looking like he may clean up and split the pre-board games with Hawkins. Liliana of the Veil took care of Vault Scourge. Now Hawkins playing off the top of the deck, and that land he drew not going to help him yet.
And with that turn that's passed, Majors will be able to plus the Liliana here, and then he would have to have a removal spell to still have Etched Champion covered because Eric still has the Blink Moth Nexus, though the Etched Champion a little bit shy of being metal crafted, actually.
Yeah, we can't forget Michael Majors is at 5, but he does have Shambling Vent.
Right, he can gain some life by rumbling in with the Vent. Major's position is very good here.
Yeah, this has been a great game for him. Once he makes it to game 3, things are going to go heavily in Michael Majors' favor. This game looks to be a steal. Hawkins is going to block and pump with Blink Moth Nexus to eat 1 Spirit token. And now Majors shows why he didn't attack with Vent. That's a copy of Siege Rhino, draining 3, gaining 3. Liliana pluses.
And that increases Major's clock, but also just that +3 life. That alone kind of puts Eric out of this game.
Eric's counting. There's 7 damage on Michael's side of the board. 9 if you include the Shambling Vent. And here's Eric's card, Etched Champion. Now, he's not actually metal crafted as it stands.
He has to activate the Blink Moth Nexus to do it. Major's next turn likely involves just cracking that Liliana to Edict Eric. And then he's definitely not on Metalcraft.
Right, so if he wants to use the Nexus to save his champion, the champion will lose Metalcraft.
And then even if he peels Cranial Plating, sure, it gets him back up to Metalcraft, but it's only +3.
He's taking 8 damage or 7 damage this turn. That's not nothing.
It's a lot, actually.
Draw for Majors. Liliana, she's going to be gone. We'll see which creature she takes with her. Blink Moth will activate, and it'll hit the graveyard.
Yeah, the Blink Moth just was absolutely not closing this game with all those lingering souls. The Etched Champion is Eric's prayer here.
Now the creature land going to make its first appearance. It's Shambling Vent, 2/3 attacking. So we have 3 from the Spirits, 2 from the Vent, and 4 from the Rhino. Make that 9. Hawkins is down to 6, and Michael Majors up to 9.
And even with the plating and leaving the champion back on blocks, he's at a 2-turn clock to the Spirits alone.
Yeah, sometimes Affinity can draw out of these sorts of spots with a lot of thought casts, but Hawkins doesn't have enough artifacts for that. And game 2, this one's taken by Michael Majors. He's evened it up.
Yeah, and that was exactly the kind of hand that Majors wanted game 1, and post-sideboard, things are going to look a lot better for him.
All right, so now the players get to go break out the sideboards. We'll start with Michael Majors. This is really maybe the scariest part of the match if you're an Eric Hawkins fan. Michael Majors was one of the players this weekend who, while Dredge was a thing, he made sure to leave his Affinity Hate in the deck box. 2 copies of Damnation, 2 Kitchen Finks and Engineered Explosives, a Gideon, a Maelstrom Pulse, 2 Graph Digger's Cages, 2 Fulminator Mages, 2 Stony Silences, a Collective Brutality, and a Pithing Needle.
2 Damnations or Windmill Slams here, able to clear up multiple creatures at the same time, indiscriminate of whether or not they're Etched Champions. That card's great. The Engineered Explosives, really good. You can clean up multiple cranial platings and really deal with almost everything that Eric is up to. Maelstrom Pulse can do kind of a similar role, so that card is fine. The 2 Fulminator Mage, Eric has a lot of creature lands. You can use that to kind of choke him on that. 2 Stony Silence, this card, if Majors has it on turn 2, it wins the majority of the games that comes down that early. Collective Brutality is another removal spell. And the Pithing Needle can shut off, say, all of the Arcbound Ravagers from their max impact, as well as Cranial Plating out of Hawkins. So I imagine that one will come in as well.
Yeah, so Collective Brutality was a big player in Game 1. I was a little surprised to see it in Knobs on deck, a deck that's not a graveyard deck, but maybe that incidental value just off Lingering Souls makes it good enough here?
There's that value, and there's also just matchups where it's insanely powerful. If you draw this card against Burn, I have a difficult time imagining how you actually lose, as long as the rest of your hand is functional.
I guess for 2 mana, you get a lot of stuff. I know you're discarding cards to do it, but in matchups which only last 4 turns, a 2-mana spell that does all these things, that's really good.
And Abzan is a relatively land-heavy deck. Majors has 24 lands. You don't really need more than 4. So oftentimes discarding that 5th land or the 4th on an early turn is completely reasonable.
All right, we'll look over at Eric Hawkins' sideboard. Now remember, this is a top 8, so players have access to deck lists. He's going to have to fight back. 2 Thoughtseize, 2 Spellskite, 2 Whip Flare, 2 Ancient Grudge, 2 Girapur Aether Grid. He has that last Etched Champion. That one seems very likely to come in. A Dismember, a Relic of Progenitus, a Grafdigger's Cage, and a Gut Shot.
So the big hit here is that 4th Etched Champion. It's his most important card in the matchup. You can use the 2 Thoughtseize to try to catch the Stony Silence. I imagine that one will be coming in. Could also interact with Michael's removal spells. There's an argument for Relic of Progenitus. It interacts with Lingering Souls, can clean up some Tarmogoyfs, and I imagine that's about it. You can bring in some combination of Aether Grid or Whip Flare. Those are both answers to Lingering Souls. Those specifically the R4 Souls. For that reason, I would be biased towards the Aether Grid over the Whip Flare because it can be more proactive when there's no souls involved.
Yeah, and Eric was saying he may even board in these Thoughtseizes just because there are so many cards in Major's sideboard that are too tough to beat. He has to just, you know, maybe Thoughtseize the Damnation, Thoughtseize the Stony.
And the thing with Affinity, you have to be careful not to overboard.
Yeah,
you need to keep Metalcraft online. You still need to have those Haymakers and have them be effective. You can trim on Memnite, but you still have Memnite as part of your best draws. So you can't board in like 8 cards into given matchups. Well,
your deck stops working, right?
Exactly, and while Majors is doing exactly that.
Right. All right, well, they're going to get ready for Game 2. We're going to take a second to hop on over to StarCityGames.com. We have our weekly sale running. So if you haven't been following us this summer, we've been having a different item on the store on sale every single week. Now, those sales end Monday morning. So right now, we are just finishing up our sale on non-English singles. If you're like me and you cube a lot, I really like Russian cards, for example. You see there, and Simian Spirit Guide, they even had me in mind when they made this because I really like that kind of stuff too. I would certainly get one of those. All those 10% off until Monday. Of course, check back each week for a different item on sale.
I like him for Commander more than Cube. It's really awkward if you have a friend that doesn't play much Magic, you invite him to their Cube, and they're like, what do these 4 cards do? In my Cube, I have exactly I have 2. I have an Italian Chain Lightning that I want to fix. And I have a Japanese Muldrifter, because if you don't know what Muldrifter does, I don't want to cube with you.
Game 2, taken by Michael Majors, means that Hawkins will be on the play here. There's going to be 3 sideboarded games, and Hawkins is going to have to win 2 of them. All right, well, he has a good start here, as he's just not paying for any of his cards. It is a turn 1 Arcbound Ravager, 5 permanents. It was Inkmoth Nexus, Springleaf Drum, Ornithopter, Mox Opal, Arcbound Ravager.
And Michael Majors with a tap land.
Well, he's got Stony Silence. It may not matter.
Yeah, that shuts off Ravager in a big way. A lot of pressure on Hawkins to have more than this. In the face of Stony Silence, he can attack for 1, maybe 2.
Well, turn 2 Etched Champion from Hawkins as he swings for 1. Majors, yeah, he's got the Stony in hand.
And it might be too late given this draw. Hawkins will be able to sacrifice an artifact or 2 to the Ravager, move that over the champion, and make that a very fast clock.
Well, we will see. Turn 2, Stony Silence from Michael Majors. This card, so good against Affinity. Now, I guess fortunately for Hawkins, he's on the play this game.
Yeah, Springleaf Drum and Mox Opal are not doing anything with the silence on the table. Those for sure getting eaten by the Ravager to move over to the Etch Champion.
Yeah, there's no sort of abrupt decay effect in Hawkins' 75. The Stony Silence isn't leaving.
And he's thinking about the Ornithopter. Currently, the Ornithopter is a big part of maintaining Metalcraft. That's a thing that he has to manage. He has to maintain the fact that the champion has protection from all colors.
So this is all still with the Stony Silence on the stack. Majors at a very healthy 19 life.
An interesting argument, though, is that the Springleaf Drum and the Mox Opal are difficult to interact with, whereas a lot of things can deal with the Ornithopter on the table. So you might want to hang one or even both of those back just to keep Metalcraft on more reliably.
Hawkins, he's going to go sacrifice the Ornithopter to the Ravager, and then he sacrifices the Ravager to put the counters on the Etch Champion. He's made a 4/4 protection from all colors, and he's hoping to ride that to 5 hits. Here's the first.
The card that he's kind of weak to is Liliana of the Veil, but the Inkmoth Nexus has him covered on that.
Vault Scourge here from Eric Hawkins.
And he can safely cast the Vault Scourge because on this turn, Majors can't have Liliana plus removal spell.
If Michael Majors can take care of that Etch Champion, he will move up a game. It is most of Hawkins' game plan at this point. See the hand, though. 2 Maelstrom Pulse, Abrupt Decay, Fulminator Mage, Tarmogoyf lands.
It's rare that you like Affinity's position against a turn 2 Stony Silence,
Yeah.
but Eric's looking pretty good here.
See what Majors can do. He's going to play Maelstrom Pulse on the Vault Scourge. He's clearing the way for that Liliana that's on top of his deck. How about the one that he hopes is on top? He'll go to 10. For Eric Hawkins, he has no more plays. He's just, there's swing number 2.
Yeah, he has a Thoughtcast in hand, which the Springleaf Drum and the Mox Opal can't produce mana. He's on Glimmer Voids and his 1 basic island if he ever wants to cast that.
Yeah, but Majors' hand is loaded enough here. You see Abrupt Decay, Maelstrom Pulse. He can just take Hawkins off of Metalcraft.
Yeah, he can start just destroying those worthless artifacts that are enabling the Metalcraft.
Fulminator Mage, the play from Majors. He'll take Hawkins' last land. He's confident enough here. He's going to take Hawkins off mana, and next turn he'll play his 5th land. He'll blow up 2 things. Majors is just fine.
That's wild.
Down to 6 from Etch Champion. Hawkins no plays and go. Majors to 5.
Hawkins really needed a Darksteel Citadel there.
Yeah. That would have been huge, huh?
Yeah, it would have been. There's a 0 mana Darksteel card that does like nothing.
Darksteel Relic.
Yeah,
There we
it
go.
would have been basically a Darksteel Relic, but it would have been what he needed. And now he's facing down Pulse, one of your nonsense artifacts, Abrupt Decay, your Etch Champion. Let's go to game 4.
Keep in mind there are no Galvanic Blasts in Eric Hawkins' deck, so it's not like he can just top deck a 4-point burn spell.
Right.
Michael is at 4, and this is where public deck lists are really nice to have.
And Majors will have all the time in the world to close the game from there.
Yeah, he's going to make it easy after this point. Hawkins was on the play. We talked about how this post-board, this is really tough for him.
And he had an excellent hand for fighting Stony Silence, too. It just so happened that Majors had these Maelstrom Pulses, this Abrupt Decay, and Hawkins played it great. He played it in a way where he forced Majors to have these things that could interact with Springleaf Drum, Mox Opal, but Majors just had them.
Hawkins, now he hits a land. It's Glimmer Void. Yeah, he'll play it. Sure. If Majors blows up the artifact, then Hawkins loses all his permanents. So be it.
Not like he's winning anyway.
Majors, here are the threats then. Scavenging Ooze and Tarmogoyf. No cards left in Michael's hand. Another Glimmer Void from Hawkins. He actually does have another Etched Champion. You see him play Arcbound Ravager. That might be good enough.
Majors doesn't have anything left in hand. He's just got a couple creatures here, and he's on 4. The Shambling Vent is significant. Majors can start to gain a little bit of life.
Right. Now, if there weren't for Stony Silence, Hawkins could deny the life gain with Arcbound Ravager.
Not to mention that because of Stony Silence, Eric can't peel Mana Source, cast Etch Champion, and then peel Cranial Plating, because that's just off.
Yeah, I see Majors went to 3 on end step there, but there are creatures in the graveyard. Scavenging Ooze is going to get bigger. We see a 5/6 Tarmogoyf. He may life gain his way to safety. Here's a swing for 7. Major's going to go gain a life, make it 8.
And with 3 green sources here, he gains more life just activating the Scavenging Ooze than he would with the Shambling Vent. He can also increase his clock more if he wanted to activate that a bunch of times.
Majors to 4, Hawkins to 10. Lingering Souls and flashed back for Michael Majors.
That one's also not bad.
Eric Hawkins draws Darksteel Citadel, plays Etched Champion.
Can't do that one. That's a Darksteel Relic.
Oh, it just turns off the land completely, doesn't it?
Yeah, Stony
oh,
Silence
goodness.
just is a preemptive Stone Rain for every Darksteel Citadel in Eric's deck. Can't overstate how good that card is.
Oh, goodness. So game 3, Michael Majors. We knew he was going to be good in the post-board games, and he delivered as promised. Eric needed to land 5 hits with that Etched Champion. He's only able to get 3, and now we're on to the 4th game.
And for the first time in the entire tournament, in the match that matters most, Eric Hawkins' back is against the wall.
We talked about how tough these post-board games are. I'm looking at the sideboard again, so he had 2 Etched Champions there. That's got to be as good as he can do, right? That's his best card.
His hand was excellent. The problem was that not only did he play it great, he set up that 4/4 Etched Champion before before Stony Silence was on the table. Got ahead of that, forced Majors to have specifically Maelstrom Pulse, specifically Abrupt Decay, to deal with his non-creature artifacts, and Majors just had it all.
Yeah, so let's go through what Hawkins had on the play there. It was a turn 2 Ravager, or turn 1 Ravager, a turn 2 Etched Champion, quickly got all the counters onto the champion. This is perfect, right?
Yeah.
But it's not good enough.
And what Hawkins is kind of banking on, sometimes your opponents have Stony Silence, but they're playing it in a deck where the matchup's a little bit worse. Maybe it's not a Lingering Souls deck. Maybe it's not an Abrupt Decay deck, and they have to mulligan into Stony Silence.
Sure, yeah.
Majors had a 7-card hand with Stony Silence and excellent backup.
Yeah, Stony Silence plus a big stack of kill spells. And in this situation, I guess, Hawkins would have to have a lot of Darksteel Citadels. Something maybe... Right, the problem was that Majors actually killed off all of Hawkins' artifacts until the Etched Champion was no longer metal crafted.
Right, despite the fact that the card would not do anything on the battlefield other than enable Metacraft, he really wanted a pair of Darksteel Citadels.
Game 4 coming right up. Take a second. StarCityGames.com, you've seen our fabulous creature collection. These are the most adorable critters on Magic cards. You've seen them on our pins, on our tokens, on our game night promos. Now you can get them on playmats and sleeves. You see, this is, of course, the August game night promo, Young Burromancer. He's available for order on all the products you see here. Now, we also have some exclusive ones available from the store, including the Fruit Bat, this delicious little insect eating his way out of a watermelon. You can get this on just about everything in your Magic collection. More of these are available too. Head on over to starcitygames.com/creature collection.
Rodent.
He's a rodent, not an insect, right?
He eats insects.
Right. He's kind of like, remember this like Calvin and Hobbes comic where Calvin has to give a report on bats and his whole thing is titled Bats Are Bugs, and they just like keeps going for like I remember that. He starts the presentation by calling them insects, and then everybody yells at him that bats aren't bugs.
It's a bold starting point.
Well, we have our 3rd semi-finalist to announce for Tom Ross. A valiant fight, but it will not be our first 3-time Invitational champion. He falls to Liam Lonergan. The unknown player here from the Northeast on Elves is on to the semifinals and awaits the winner of this match.
Tom will have to settle for having just 2 tokens in his likeness. Though he's already invited to the Players' Championship. He had most of the stuff that you get for winning this tournament already.
So what that means is for Todd Stevens at home, he was the championing Tom Ross. Stevens will have to go after one of those Season 3 or those 2016 invites if he wants to make it to the Players' Championship.
Really unfortunate string of events for Todd Stevens over the past 2 weekends. Had some issues with his travel plans, some tournament games really not go his way. he'll have to try harder in Season 3.
So the 4 slots this weekend now belong to Kevin Jones, Andrew Jessup, Tom Ross, and whatever player wins the Invitational crown this afternoon.
A lot of great players still in contention. I guess not a lot. It's not a very large field. But
about 5.
All of them are great. Jaden Clomperens, Brad Nelson, the 2 players in front of you, Eric Hawkins and Michael Majors.
And I have to say, I'm looking forward next weekend. Next round. Next in the semifinals, we'll get to actually see Liam Lonergan here on camera. When you have a player with such a small resume start to go this late into a tournament, something's up.
Right.
And I'm going to be excited. We're going to be back covering the winner of this versus Liam in the second semifinal. Hawkins on a mulligan.
I believe this is his second mulligan. That's bad pre-sideboard. This is really bad post-sideboard.
If I were ever to play Obzon, I have to start out, not that when I play Obzon, but
in some hypothetical
world where I'm playing this deck, I just have to feel great every time I see my opponent mulligan, because I know that this Thoughtseize and this Path to Exile and this Maelstrom Pulse in my hand are going to trade with his first 3 cards, and then I'll be on top.
Oh no, not like this, Eric.
We'll see if Eric Hawkins can cobble together something. It was already going to be an uphill battle on the deck sheets, and now, with as many mulligans as he's on, the battle's going to get even harder.
Still couldn't be happier for Eric. Top 8 of his first Invitational. Excellent. Add that one onto the resume. Though you just hate to see somebody go down like this. Mulliganing to 4 in a bad matchup.
So what can he do? A fast, maybe a turn 2 Etch Champion. He'll be out of cards at that point. But he does it, and Michael can't remove it. Maybe Hawkins wins.
There's some weird scenarios where maybe Majors didn't look at his 7, and Hawkins can cast a Steel Overseer, and it'll just stick around.
Maybe Majors keeps a 2-lander.
Kept a 1-lander with a couple discard spells, and Hawkins plays all his spells on turn 1.
Eric had mentioned that, and one of his strategies was he hoped that Majors might draw a borderline hand, the kind that you're supposed to keep but that's missing something, and then Majors swings and misses.
Maybe his hand is land, Siege Rhino, 4 Lingering Souls, and he peels Siege Rhino. He accidentally left in Nile Spellbomb and draws that.
Right, he's hoping, like I said, that Majors would swing at a pitch and miss, but when Eric's pitch is in the dirt 10 feet in front of the plate, it doesn't matter. He's kept a 3-card hand.
Well, if Majors swings at that pitch, that's a strike, right?
Yeah.
So there you go.
He's got Michael Majors is too good to do that one, though. Land Vault Scourge for Eric Hawkins. He's going to maybe lose his last card to a Thoughtseize. Yeah, okay.
All right, it's
Eric's empty-handed now.
Signal Pest versus Obzon.
Eric's next turn, he will be attacking for, well, if he draws a land, he'll attack for 2.
One thing you can say for Eric Hawkins, he's going down swinging. Even in this position, he's playing on.
Here per 8th grade. There we go. Attacks for 0.
I came this far. I'm taking my feature match.
And Majors will play Tarmogoyf. A anticlimax here for Eric Hawkins' run, but I want to just go back at how impressive this has been for him. So he won his first 7 matches with Affinity. He took his only loss of the tournament to Brad Carpenter in round 12. That was with Affinity. So he's going to end the tournament at 7-2 in matches with the deck.
Let's talk about his pairings as well.
Yeah, okay, so he played against Jerry Thompson, Tom Ross, Brad Nelson twice, Brad Carpenter twice, Seth Manfield. This is just... And then he was undefeated through these matches.
Right.
A great event. And then in Standard, a 5-0-3 record, 2 of those, of course, being intentional draws, as he was already locked,
right.
With Blue-Black Zombies. This wasn't even on anyone's radar.
Really awesome deck. Had some great games on camera. Him against Tom Ross, you'll want to check that one out. I believe it was round 8 on day 1.
Yeah, playing for that 8-0. A real barn burner where Hawkins took a bad matchup.
Game 2 specifically.
Yeah.
Just way behind, was able to generate enough value to deal with all of Tom's humans.
Looking at this board, it's just cleanup duty for Michael Majors as he's going to cruise to a semifinal win here. Using Maelstrom Pulse to knock each of Eric Hawkins' threats off the table as he draws them, taking all of Eric's lands.
And if you just ignore the mulligans, look at the spells that Majors is casting here, it really exemplifies how bad the matchup is for Hawkins. Turn 1 discard spell followed up by Tarmogoyf. That's a turn 2, 3-4, or a 4-5. Has Maelstrom Pulse on the following turn to deal with any cranial platings. Has Fulminator Mage to deal with any creature lands or to choke Eric on mana. And how about a second Tarmogoyf?
Hawkins, each turn, I just want to point, he has swung with the Signal Pest, fighting to the end. Unfortunately, that card doesn't fight very well, but he's going to make it fight.
Well, you know, Majors is at 13, so he's doing some work. See, Majors draws his one of Pendelhaven, not quite capable of pumping Tarmogoyf, though, not going to need it.
And that will be the hand. So it is Michael Majors with Obzon losing the first game and then 3 in a row on to the semifinals where Liam Lonergan awaits.
That one's going to be a curious matchup, white and black removal spells versus elves. We'll find out how that goes. For Eric Hawkins, still an excellent tournament. For Michael Majors, congratulations. Let's see what else you can do.
And for Majors, this is just